11 days have passed, and so far, no one can tell Nolan Wells' family what happened to their son. 4 young men got on a boat and went out to an empty island. 3 came back. He didn't. 2 days later, his body was found in the water. But here is what makes this case unusual. The autopsy results still haven't been released. Neither of them. Not the state's and not the independent one the family commissioned themselves. No one has been charged. Police say there's no evidence that a crime has occurred. And yet the questions keep piling up. Why was he left behind? Why was his phone inside a friend's house on the mainland? Why did it take 6.5 hours before anyone made an emergency call? And why are the police themselves publicly asking the community for videos of altercations on that island that day? Today, we're going to walk through every one of those questions. I won't name anyone, I won't accuse anyone, and I'll be clear about what's verified and what's rumor. Because Nolan Wells deserves the truth, not a story written for him on the internet. Let's start by admitting something. This is an ongoing investigation, and it is changing by the day. July 4th, 2026, Independence Day, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Nolan Xavier Wells, 18 years old, got on a boat with 3 friends. They went out to Horn Island. Now that island is about 8 miles offshore. It's part of a national seashore. No staff, no drinking water, no shelter, and no cell service. The only way to get there is by boat, and the only way to leave is the same. 3 in the afternoon. That was the last time anyone saw Nolan. 4:30, the boat left the island. There were 3 people on it. On July 6th, a park ranger found his body in the water, just off the northwestern tip of the island. On July 7th, an autopsy was performed at the state lab. And then, silence. Here's what we know for certain as of today. The cause and manner of death still hasn't been released. The state medical examiner is still waiting on the toxicology report. The family doesn't trust the investigation, so they commissioned an independent autopsy. Nolan's body was flown out to Washington, D.C. Those results were supposed to come out last Friday, but flights were canceled and it was delayed again. Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter has repeatedly stated one thing, that as of now, they have no information leading them to believe a crime occurred. The case is being investigated as a death, not a homicide. Authorities say they suspect Nolan may have drowned, and the county coroner said there were no obvious signs of trauma on the body. That is the truth, and it has to be said. But Nolan's family does not accept that answer. And when you hear all the questions in this video, you'll understand why. Before Nolan became a name in the national news, he was an ordinary young man. And there's one detail about his last night that, once you know it, is hard to forget. Nolan Xavier Wells, 18 years old. The following month, he would have turned 19. He grew up in Ocean Springs, a small town on the Gulf Coast. He went to Ocean Springs High School. Then, he went on to Southwest Mississippi Community College. He played wide receiver on the football team. A new season was coming, so he was getting ready to go back. His high school coach actually, described him in one line. A happy-go-lucky kid with a big smile that everyone adored and loved. He added, if you got kids, you want your kids to be like Nolan. And his mother Christine wrote, my heart is broken for our sweet son. He was always willing to cheer and uplift others. And so here's the detail. The evening of July the 3rd, one day before the trip, Nolan's mother came home late from work. She was exhausted. So Nolan went into the kitchen and he baked salmon for his parents. Afterward, he grabbed his bag and went to sleep over at a friend's house, so they could head out for the holiday in the morning. His mother remembers that moment in 6 words. It was hug, kiss, and he left. That was the last time she saw her son. Now, hold that image in your head, because every question that follows revolves around that young man. This is the first question, and it's the one Nolan's father cannot accept. According to the account that was given, the boat had trouble. It started taking on water, so the group had to head back early. And they said Nolan chose to stay behind, to catch a ride home later with another group. Now, the sheriff, based on the accounts of the people he spoke with, reached a similar conclusion, that it appeared Nolan had chosen to stay on the island, assuming someone else would bring him back. Now, on the surface, it sounds reasonable. A holiday, a crowded beach, but Nolan's father doesn't believe it. Now, he went on CBS Mornings, and the anchor asked him directly, did he believe his son was left behind on that island? His answer was short. Yes, I don't believe he decided to stay on the island by himself. That's not his character. He explained further, Nolan always stays with the group. If you came with me, you come back with me. Then he said something I think a lot of parents will understand. If I was in that situation, I would have told them, you're going to get back on this boat with me, because I don't want to answer to your parents if something happens to you. And there's another contradiction. According to the family's attorney, there are two versions of Nolan's final minutes. The friends said he told them he was staying behind to talk to a girl. But the girl said the opposite. She said Nolan told her he was heading back to the boat. The family's attorney put it plainly. One of them is telling the truth, one of them is not. So, question number 1. Why did Nolan stay behind on that island alone? Still no answer. If you were staying on an empty island with no water, no shelter, no signal, what would you bring with you? The obvious answer is your phone. Nolan didn't have his. His phone wasn't on the island. It was on the mainland, inside the home of one of the friends who'd been on the boat with him. The family's attorney asked a question everyone was already thinking. What teenager would leave their phone behind if they're going to stay on this island? But the way the family found that phone unsettled them even more. Nobody handed it over. Nolan's mother had to track it down herself with a location sharing app. She followed the signal, and she found it sitting inside the home of one of her son's friends. Then she sent someone to go get it, which means the family found the phone before the police did. But what they found inside is what truly chilled her. Now, Nolan had Snapchat. He used it constantly. Every time he went out, he filmed videos, took photos. That's just what he did. So she opened the phone, she went into Snapchat. Empty. Not a single photo, not a single video, nothing from that entire day. His mother told reporters she believes the content was deleted. She said that was concerning because it would be unusual for her son not to capture a day like that. Now here, I have to be fair. An empty phone doesn't prove anything by itself. There could be a technical explanation. Police have not confirmed the data was deliberately deleted. But what would you think if you were the mother? Your son is dead. You had to go find his phone yourself. And when you opened it, everything inside had been wiped clean. So question 2. Why was Nolan's phone inside a friend's house on the mainland? And why was Snapchat empty? Still no answer. This is the part where I have to be extremely careful because there's been a new development, and that development could flip everything. On social media, a video began to spread. In it, you can hear a male voice shouting. According to the family's attorney, the voice says, "Give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing?" Now, Crump's legal team believes that voice belongs to Nolan. And if that's true, it would be a critical clue. Because remember, his phone was later found inside a friend's house. But then something unexpected happened. A friend of Nolan's named Tristan Shepard went on Good Morning America. And he said something that stunned everyone. He said, the shouting voice in that video is not Nolan. It's him. That's the video I am referring to. and that's me yelling. Mississippi Today reviewed the video. They described it as being shot from a boat, panning across other boats parked nearby, and a sandbar where people were standing. So, who is right? The family's legal team believe it's Nolan's voice. The friend says it's his own. Police have not confirmed anything. This is exactly why I can't tell you that I know what happened, because I don't, and neither does anyone else yet. But there's one thing I need to make clear. Even if that video isn't Nolan, another fact still stands. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office put out a public statement. They asked the community to send in any original, unedited photos or videos taken on the northwest tip of Horn Island that day. And they said it plainly. They specifically wanted anything depicted alleged altercations. They also asked, did anyone hear an argument, a disturbance, or any kind of unusual activity on the island that day? Police don't ask questions like that for no reason. They ask because something made them ask. So question 3, whose voice is in that video? And why are the police asking about altercations? Still no answer. The boat left the island at 4:30 in the afternoon, but it wasn't until nearly 11 at night that the first emergency call was made. 6.5 hours. Hold that number in your head. Around 11 at night, the United States Coast Guard received a call. The caller was a friend of Nolan's. The Coast Guard later confirmed the call was real, but they wouldn't say what was said. 7 minutes later, Nolan's mother's phone rang. The caller was one of the friends who had been on the boat with her son. She called the police right after. Midnight. Nolan Wells was officially reported missing. And here is what I want you to ask yourself. A teenager is left alone on an empty island, no water, no shelter, no phone. The sun goes down, and it took 6.5 hours before anyone called for help. Now, I'm not saying that proves anything. There could be a perfectly ordinary explanation. Maybe everyone assumed he'd gone back with another group, but it's still a question. Question 4. Why did it take 6.5 hours before the first emergency call? Still no answer. This is a question the press has asked, and so far, no one has answered it. Mississippi Today contacted the sheriff. They asked something very specific. Was Horn Island ever secured as a crime scene? The sheriff did not respond. They also contacted the National Park Service, which manages the island. The superintendent confirmed the Park Service was part of recovering Nolan's body. But he did not answer questions about how rangers patrolled Horn Island on July 4th. And there's more that hasn't been clarified. The sheriff's office hasn't said who was on the island when Nolan stayed behind, or whether he knew them. It isn't known exactly where on the island he was seen after his friends left, or whether he was in the water at this point. Those details so far have not been released. Meanwhile, what we do know about that day comes from photos and videos taken by people who were there. They show multiple boats docked around the island, young adults drinking beer and spiked seltzers, standing in water up to their shoulders. It was a crowded holiday, and a loud one. Question 5. Was the island ever secured as a crime scene? Police still haven't answered. This may be the most troubling detail in the entire case, and it explains why this investigation is so hard. According to Mississippi Today, a lot of young people were on Horn Island that day. But they're afraid. They're afraid that if they speak up, they'll be investigated themselves. And they're afraid of being dragged into the media spotlight. So, they stay quiet. Think about that. There could be dozens of people who saw something that day. There could be someone who knows what happened to Nolan, but they're sitting at home saying nothing. Meanwhile, on social media, the opposite is happening. People are accusing, people are naming names, people are spreading anonymous posts and unsourced rumors. And Sheriff Ledbetter had to issue an official statement. He asked the public to stop spreading unverified information. This is a cruel paradox. The people who might actually know something are silent, and the people who know nothing are screaming. And in the middle of it, a family is still waiting for answers. There are two autopsies in this case, and neither has been released. The first is the state's. It was performed on July 7th. But the state medical examiner still hasn't issued a final report because they're waiting on toxicology. That could take weeks. The second one is the independent one, commissioned by the family themselves. Now, why would they do that? Their attorney said it plainly. The family does not trust that Mississippi law enforcement will conduct a fair investigation. So they flew Nolan's body to Washington, D.C. to be examined by a doctor with no ties to Mississippi. The cost of that autopsy was covered by former football player Colin Kaepernick. The results were supposed to come out last Friday, but flights were canceled and so it was postponed. The attorney says they'll release the findings as soon as they have them. And he added something important, that the family wants transparency from both sides. We want them to be transparent and we want to be transparent. But as of right now, as you watch this video, neither autopsy has been released. Which means no one on earth knows for certain what took the life of Nolan Wells. Not me, not you, and certainly not the people screaming on social media. There's a dimension to this story that nobody can pretend isn't there. And it's why this case has captured the attention of the entire country. Nolan was black. The three friends on the boat were white. Ocean Springs is a majority white town, and this is Mississippi. The family's attorney said that for many black Americans, the history of the state isn't just something they read about in books. It's a lived experience. That's why the family commissioned an independent autopsy. That's why they hired Ben Crump, one of the most prominent civil rights attorneys in America. That's why Reverend Al Sharpton stood beside them at a press conference in Harlem. And that's why names like Colin Kaepernick and Tyler Perry stepped in to cover the full autopsy and the funeral. But here is what I want you to hear. It was Nolan's own mother who said something I think should be remembered. Regardless of the color of anyone's skin, your hope is that the people your children call friends will be there. And when Nolan's friends organized a protest, it was his mother who called for calm. Nolan was not someone who liked fights, she said. He really didn't even like arguments. So don't go out there just trying to be tough. Just think about what Nolan would want. A mother who had just lost her son in the middle of a media storm, still standing up and asking people to stay peaceful. Now, let's look at this honestly. Here is what has been verified. 4 young men went into the island. 3 came back. Nolan Wells did not. He was last seen at 3 in the afternoon. The boat left at 4:30. His phone was found on the mainland inside a friend's house. The family tracked it down before the police did. And when they opened it, Snapchat was empty. There are 2 contradicting accounts of his final intentions. It took 6.5 hours before the first emergency call. Police publicly asked for videos of alleged altercations on the island that day. And here is what is also true, and also has to be said. The sheriff says that as of now, there is no evidence a crime occurred. The coroner said there were no obvious signs of trauma on the body. The water around the northwest tip of that island is dangerous. In a few steps, it can drop from 3 feet deep to 20 feet deep. And there were strong rip currents that day. The shouting video has been contradicted by one of Nolan's own friends. He says the voice is his. Neither autopsy has been released. No one has been charged with anything. Both of those things are true, and both have to be said. Now let me be blunt with you. Right now on social media, a lot of people are accusing specific individuals by name, based on anonymous posts, unsourced rumors. There are even detailed stories circulating about what supposedly happened on that island. Not one mainstream news outlet has confirmed them. So I'm not going to spread that. Because if we destroy the lives of people who may be innocent, we are not getting justice for Nolan. We're just creating more victims. And the sheriff himself has had to ask people to stop. Nolan deserves the truth, the real truth, not a story written for him on the internet. So, If you were on Horn Island on the 4th of July, if you have photos, videos, or saw anything at all, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office is asking you to contact them. Even if you think it isn't important, because one small piece could be the last thing this family is waiting on. And remember Nolan Wells. Not as a symbol, not as an argument online. Remember him for what he was. An 18-year-old with a big smile. A football player about to start a new season. A son who on that last night went into the kitchen and baked salmon for his parents because his mother came home tired from work. A hug, a kiss, and he left. This is an ongoing case. When the autopsy results come out, we'll bring you the update. So, which of these questions makes the least sense to you? Leave your thoughts in the comments, but please keep it respectful. And please don't accuse people who haven't been charged. If you want to be here when the truth comes out, leave a like and subscribe.